Zimbabwe have qualified for the Rugby World Cup for the first time since 1991. A team winning the first World Cup in 1987 were great there, were great value, had a fantastic game against Romania that is, I think, out there on YouTube. We did a podcast on it that's worth going and listening to, the Rugby World Cup retrospective, where we looked over that Zimbabwe team. Yeah. They were great fun.
They were great fun back then. With Richard Simba, one of the GOATs in the Rugby World Cup, or the World Rugby Hall of Fame rather, Kennedy Simba as well, his brother.
The only two Zimbabweans in the Hall of Fame. They now have a chance to add to that. They qualified for the first time in over 30 years, which is incredible at the weekend, beating Namibia, holding out, surviving a late shot by Tian Swanepoel from about Algeria to have a shot at goal. They managed to survive and see out the game and win it.
Yeah, the Sables are back, baby. First time since 1991 they've been to a Rugby World Cup. How incredible is that as a story, as a rugby nation? About 4 years ago, I can remember watching Namibia playing in their qualifiers, playing against Zimbabwe and Kenya, and you naturally slightly cheer for the underdog. It was when Kenya just brought in all the ringers and they put in like 38-year-old Collins Injera and Humphrey Kyange and all the boys playing together, Billy Odhiambo. And I remember watching Zimbabwe then and cheering for them just as underdogs, not knowing their players or anything like that. And they just looked completely off the pace. They looked like they couldn't deal with any of the kind of intricacies of rugby. They couldn't deal with the breakdown, with the physicality, with the set piece, any of it.
I think that's a little bit harsh, but I think there was clearly a lot of talent that wasn't being coached to its fullest potential. Right?
They had athletes. They had pure athletes, but they didn't look like a World Cup rugby team.
All of those players, when you looked at Zimbabwe 4 years ago, looked like they had the potential to play in a World Cup. Them as a team, as a collective, didn't. Right? And so we saw them put together some great form and then get smashed by Namibia physically. And Namibia scrummed, their line out just dominated them. They were able to kick goals, control possession, and just dominate that game in the end, right? And then we come into, and Zimbabwe have done a really smart thing, right? Which is they have consistently challenged these players, and yet they gave them a fairly realistic schedule. They didn't play a game in 2023. They had a year off from matches after qualifying in 2022, where obviously they fell short. They had a year off, no games. Part of that was like union issues. But then they came back in 2024 and they didn't lose a game. And they arranged a fairly reasonable fixture list, right? But then built through into the Rugby Africa Cup, where they went on and won it, beating Namibia themselves, and building this confidence and this young team. There's a lot of this squad are like 26 or younger, right? Like there's a handful of players like Ian Pryor who we'll come on to who are older, but like they feel like important cogs within a much younger team who've been assembled. And then they went to Europe. They won both, all three of their games in the autumn and finished the year as the only undefeated side in Test rugby, in men's Test rugby.
So they've not lost a game in almost 3 years now, which is quite a mad situation to be in. So basically they're better than the Springboks, they're better than the British and Irish Lions.
They have the best win rate of any team in Africa, or indeed the world.
They have not lost in all that time of Wales' win streak and loss streak and more. Like that puts that into context, doesn't it? But I'm honestly delighted for them, because now you look at them and they're just a much more cohesive rugby team. And I think there's parts of their game that we'll come on to that they probably need to tighten up by the World Cup.
Definitely so.
But they're all on the same wavelength with how they want to play, both attacking and defensively. Defensively, they're brilliant to watch.
They're so enthusiastic. It's great. You've got, obviously, Captain Hilton Madariki, who is the scrum half, and you generally think, right, you see him play with the ball, and you're like, okay, I get the picture of him, right?
He's so lively.
Incredibly quick, incredibly alive, incredibly alert, quietly a very good kicker. Right, but then you look at him in defence, and the way he flies into things, and you're like, "Oh, that's why you're captain." Right, is like never mind anything off the pitch that we don't know about. It is largely like the way he flies into contact. He won a turnover in this game. Like it's his sheer want and work.
The fafter clerkiness of it, isn't it?
In
of
many
just flying
ways,
into everything.
Typifies this team because they have so many standouts. And he said that defence is like. They're an incredibly entertaining team to watch in defence because they clearly love tackling, the line speed, they're really up for it. They've clearly had someone's done a brilliant job of motivating that team to enjoy defence.
And it's always the two-man tackles are quite disciplined. And when I say discipline, I mean that in terms of structure. And sometimes they have moments of giving away daft penalties and so on. And that is often quite a difficult mountain to climb for teams who have recently qualified for World Cups, who are playing a higher standard, is sorting out discipline. But in terms of like how they defend, they are always on the same wavelength. Yeah. And then you come into the attack, and that is the best bit of this game, of how they like to play, because they play an expansive brand of rugby. They like to get their backs loads of touches on the ball.
But as well as the backs, right, you look at the pack. Muzanagro in the second row, who loves to pop up in the wide channels and greatly enjoyed him at the weekend. Then you look at Mazavere as well as in the back row, who was everywhere. And we're talking a bit about the defence, like the way in which he just got involved at rucks, the way in which he throws his body about.
Mavasere again adds to that back line because he's so fast. Like, he's one of the fastest players in this squad. On his own goal line, he goes for a pick and go here and just squeaks through, and his acceleration's outstanding.
And that was the moment I wanted to bring up, because I think it kind of sums up how this team play, which is they look for opportunity everywhere. And it's not that they run it from their own goal line at all times. It's not a philosophy. It's just they're always looking for opportunity.
I think it's just like enjoyment for it. You know, it's not like a way of like, you look at Portugal, right? They look at trying to catch people out. This is good Portugal, last World Cup, right? They look at trying to catch people out, doing the unexpected. With them, I genuinely just think they enjoy chucking a ball about, you know? As well, speaking of a couple of names in that pack, you've got Dylan Utete at 7, who is outstanding, he's proper mongrel, but also really skillful ball carrier, can carry the ball in one hand. They've got a few players like that. Jason Fraser at 8 as well. They like to rotate around that back row, especially at scrum time, and challenge them all to play all three roles kind of as a unit. But Fraser's a big ball carrier as well.
Matthew Majoma, a hooker as well, who was superb, moved into the back row as the game went on. He's a guy I'm really excited to see. People don't find the Joseph Tueva comparison flattering, I think, but in terms of his dynamism, you then throw in, you know, if you could throw a line out, which you can. But yeah, I thought he was fantastic. And he's a guy who I think has all the raw materials, and there's a few of these in this team, to be playing at a high level. Like, I want to see him end up in France or, you know, the Premiership or something in the next few years. Like, there's quite a few of those players, I think, are very capable of that.
Yeah. The standout for me is the centre combo.
Yes.
You've got Kuzai Mashawi at 12, who's a big old unit.
He's enormous.
He's literally bigger than their props. Like, he's a proper unit. Partnered with Brandon Mudzakanyidze at outside centre, who is a baller.
Mudzakanyidze has been the star of this Rugby African Championship for me. Like, he has been so great to watch. You look at the try he scored against Namibia, the way he managed to just round. It's the little, like, rounding the first player, then as the second player is driving in, like, just taking another step back towards the player he's just beaten, which is a bold thing to do. Like, you only do that if you're immensely confident.
His celebration shows confidence as well.
Exactly, then goes over and, like, starts, you know, like, pointing to... It wasn't even, like, the play that missed the tackle in him. The players he was, like, mouthing off at were the guys trying to make cover tackles at the end, trying to make amends for them. But he plays with this immense confidence. I thought he has been, like, all championship, the way he can break the line, the way he's got a little step on him, real acceleration.
He's like the young...
big lad.
Young Waiseanai Thalevu, before he rounded his game out a little bit. You know, because there's... obviously, he's not perfect. He makes the defensive reads that slightly go the wrong way or whatever. But when he has the ball, I'm telling you, like, the guy's acceleration is so, so good. And he's so slick in the way he avoids contact. And having him and Mashawi as a centre combo is really balanced, because Mashawi is a proper gain line 12. Once again, he just loves a collision.
It's borderline Tuasova, watching him carry the ball. 100%. Like, he's that size with that kind of turn of pace. He's incredible. At one point, he managed to knock one of the Namibian players out running over the top of them. We then saw Mudariki run in and start celebrating the fact one of the Namibians had been knocked out by the 12 carrying over the top.
Remarkable captain to see that. Then also, last couple of just really entertaining players that I'm fan of. The back three. Got to talk about them.
Well,
so there's a real balance to this back three. You've got Mafura at the back, who is great. Loves to have a crack, doesn't he?
Loves a dummy, loves a crack. Yeah. Great fun. Like... Yeah, we saw him one time. He spotted space in the backfield and just gave it to Ian Pryor at 10 to do the kicking for him. Because he clearly knows his forte is throwing dummies and having a crack. And he loves to run it back. Had a few really great counterattacks and runs. Greatly enjoyed
Spirit of Vit Boy. Yeah. On the right wing, they had Matthew McNabb, who I think is a bit more of a kind of nuts and bolts winger. Defensively very sound. Good kick chaser. And on the other side, you've got the star of the show. Edward Sigwake, who is a proper lightning bolt of a player. Was their main try scorer last year, scored some absolute worldies. Again, is ludicrously fast. Good on the defence as well, loves an intercept. And I'm so excited. I think he's one of those players that, again, will light up this World Cup.
Absolutely.
If he gets any space, people will go, oh my God, this guy's rapid.
He's a superstar.
Yeah.
He's come from under 20s just 2 years ago. 2022, he was playing under 20s. 2023, he did. Obviously, Zimbabwe didn't play a game under 20s or senior, so he missed a year of that. And then came out the other side of this straight into the national team. Was a fixture last year. We nominated him. We had him up for Team of the Year selection because I thought he was unbelievable last year.
He's very close.
Yeah. He was we were talking about him when we were looking at those wing spots, right? And then he has kicked on here. Yeah. And I think we saw defenders are now more alert to him, but he still contributes so much in tight spaces, the way he can wiggle out of gaps and the way he can still find space and make gain line. He's incredibly strong. He's very, very fast, but his ability to just wiggle out the tackle or hold his feet if he's caught out on his own. He's an incredible player, Edward Sagaki. Yeah. He is the guy I'm looking at as going oh, he's going to be a favourite at the World Cup. He's going to be the guy who, you think about Nuno Sousa Guejas at the last World Cup, right? Who came in and people were like, that guy's class. Can we see more of that guy? Yeah. And obviously he then chose not to play professional rugby, turned down a deal in France. But Edward Sagaki, I think, is going to be that figure for Zimbabwe in a couple of years' time.
When they kick loosely to him, he's going to make breaks. Even against the big teams, I can just see it. In terms of the players that they brought on as well, I quite like the look of Tyrone Fagan. Massive unit. I can see, I can imagine he probably doesn't last 60 minutes regularly, but he made an impact. He was real good off the bench.
Came on, completely changed the scrum.
Loose head prop.
This is the one kind of area of concern for Zimbabwe, is the scrum for the first 60-odd minutes was a struggle.
Yeah, they got dominated. That was by Namibia.
Yeah. But then this is what Namibia do, right? In African qualifying every 4 years, is they turn up, they bring out their front row, and they steamroll everyone.
Yeah.
And then you comparatively rules out the rest of the game, right? Yeah. And I think partly Zimbabwe qualifying is a reflection of the fact we're in a very attacking phase of the game, and the set piece is less important than attack at the minute. And if you've got a functioning and strong attack, and you've got the likes of Modivinyedze, who can create something out of nothing, or Sagake, then that is going to win you games. And if you can get a bit go forward, if you've got the likes of Masawi, that helps as well. That is almost as important, if not more important, than set piece. Yeah. However, the set piece is a problem for Namibia, and we don't know where the game will be in 2 years' time.
100%.
And whether that is going to be the case still.
So, in the interest of being balanced and not just glazing Zimbabwe...
No, we could very happily do that.
I will gladly do that.
And we will do that down the line.
Let's talk about the reality of a Rugby World Cup. Yeah. Because they will play against the best teams in the world. It's what they want to do. It's where they want to be, right? And the areas of their game that maybe you would want them to tighten up between now and then are the bits that, traditionally they're not that good at. You've talked about the scrum there. You would think that they're going to try and get someone in who would tighten up that scrum,
so this
whether
is
that's a player or a coach.
World Rugby does every 4 years, is they bring in coaches who are floating around. They have a bunch who are centrally contracted, and they bring them in. Yeah. I think we will see an S&C coach come in and try to condition these players for more power, because at the minute they're incredibly athletic. Yeah. And you look at, they had two props who were brilliant ball carriers. Mufanga at loosehead was fantastic with the ball in hand, incredibly dynamic, but perhaps not a scrummaging, power.
Yeah.
I think we'll see them bring in conditioning coaches there, and probably a scrum coach alongside. Yeah. We've already seen them do it with Toby Booth of Hong Kong, who's come in there. So I think there's a very good chance someone like Graham Roundtree, who's floating about, who isn't at the minute, doesn't have a job at the minute, right? I think there's a chance we may see World Rugby can you just go and do a few
Get Dan Cole in there.
Yeah.
Give him a couple of days with him.
I think genuinely Graham Roundtree, we might see him in Zimbabwe. Yeah. We might see him go and do the odd session with Zimbabwe.
I'd love that.
And there's bound to be a few others floating around, or a few more who have changes of employment status over the next 12 months.
And that set piece is, a bit of a question mark, I think, that you looked at Adran Ludic for Namibia, the second row, completely towered over everybody in Zimbabwe. They are not a big pack. No. They are not a big team. And there's a part of me where his physical size will be kind of an issue for them, so they do need that conditioning. Speaking of, by the way, I really like the look of Aidan Burnett off the bench, who's come through Gloucester. He's played a bit in the Currie Cup as well, and he was really, really good. Real big physical, presence there and really good at breakdown.
Very good at breakdown, yeah.
Yeah. So I like the look of him, but I do think they will need to strengthen that a little bit. There are rumours that Eli Sneyman is being looked at by the management.
Yes, Benetton second row.
Yeah.
Apparently there's a young prop at the Stormers they're looking at as well.
Okay, yeah.
As contenders to potentially come in.
Which is pretty exciting.
They've made the point that they don't want to change too many. That they're happy with their squad as it is. They
If
don't
it
want to
ain't
be bringing in, where Hong Kong have said pretty publicly, they've named some players, including Rob Carmichael, friend of the channel, who they want to come in and they want to be part of their squad. Zimbabwe going the other way, and they've gone a bit like Chile 4 years ago. They've gone, we've got a squad, we're settled, we're happy with it, we like these guys. If there's one or two guys who can add something, then that'd be great. Because if you look at one other big addition to 4 years ago is Ian Pryor.
Yes.
Right? Obviously Australian. Played an awful lot in Super Rugby, awful lot around the world, awful lot in Japan, and now is kind of in his act of giving back, has gone to Zimbabwe, who's qualified for, and gone off and played for them, and he has given them a really good goal kicker, and a really good kicker in general tactical play, and it's basically rounded out the parts of the game they didn't have. And you can go, okay, you're brilliant with attack, you really love to defend, really quite good at the breakdown, right? You need one of set piece or kicking, probably, to balance those out, right? And they couldn't get a prop in time. They couldn't yet get Eli Sneyman in to sort out the line-out in time. And line-out's fine. Line-out's all right, It's not an issue, problem area.
Sure.
But Ian Pryor coming in has given them an accurate goal kicker, which they could rely on in the first half. They took their points. They built a scoreline steadily. And in the end, the margin was 2 points. They held out that kind of wave of maybe bringing on some more power off the bench. And they were able to ride that through, thanks to the goal kicking. But also, Pryor came on, or he kind of took over in the second half, and he took more of the game management from Mudariki as the game went on. He was a bit quiet in the first half, Pryor. Mudariki was doing everything and is superb.
Let the backline speak for itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Pryor, as the game went on, started kicking more and more ball and just getting more and more directly involved. Came in sort of box kicking himself a couple of times from 10 and just gave them that extra option of being able to control the game a bit.
Yeah, so Pryor's extremely experienced at Super Rugby level in Australia, having played for the Force and bounced around Super Rugby a little bit. And he was a really, really great player. Some would say quite unlucky not to pick up a handful of Wallabies caps. And it's really interesting because his step up to international rugby hasn't felt like a step up.
No.
It's not felt like, this is a big new, this is the highest standard. It's just instead felt like, I'm experienced at pro level. I'm going to become this clutch guy who manages everyone around me. And once again, he's not overpowered. He's not got main character syndrome in the way that he does all of this. He's got a really good backline around him. And I remember in the autumn last year, we were praising him for the fact that he gets the ball in and out of his hands. Yeah. That he catches the ball and he gives it to the people outside him. He trusts them. And he is, by a distance, the best tactical kicker in this team. He's the tactical kicker. So when oppositions are playing him in the World Cup, they will really go after him, undoubtedly. They've also got Kyle Godwin, who was not playing in this game, but he's been playing for them in the last 12 months or so. Another fly half can play in the centre as well. Has got a cap for the Wallabies. Is a really good kicker with the ball, particularly kicking for space rather than just for length as Pryor, or contestables as Pryor likes to do. Pryor's a bit more tactical, whereas Godwin's a bit more creative.
Godwin
with his
also
kicking.
plays everywhere, so he can slot into his back line wherever fits.
And Pryor plays as a scrum half as well as a fly half. I originally wondered why they didn't go with those two as a halfback combo, but now having watched Mudariki, it's just the guy's incredible. So you want all three of those on the pitch if you can. But every time, as you say, they're dropping Pryor into the backfield so he can look up and scan and just go, where's the space? What do we need? What do we need territory now? And that's if he needs to overrule the natural jouet component of Zimbabwe's game, then he's happy to do that and they will trust him.
Really interesting listening to Ian Pryor talk after this. One, talking about how proud he is, how excited he is about the World Cup, etc. But he also said one of the most important things is the Nations Cup format, right? And it sucks for a team like Georgia, who want to be playing the Tier 1 teams but can't. But for a team like Zimbabwe, it means next year they're going to play Romania, they're going to play Georgia, they're going to play Spain.
Yeah.
And that's going to be huge for them in terms of development. In terms of them getting a game against, Romania obviously had a tough summer, but they've been very good over the last 12 months.
Georgia are the perfect warm-up for them. In terms of what I was just saying about us being a smaller pack, play against a bunch of big bastards from Georgia.
There's a chance that they get drawn this November with South Africa, with New Zealand, with Australia, with England, whoever, right? They're going to get drawn for Tier 1 nation. That's going to happen, even if it's Wales. And that team, probably as they are now, will run an enormous scoreline against them because they've never faced anything like it. And we saw this problem with Chile last year, right? The best team Chile had ever faced up to that point, as that group of players had ever faced, was probably they played Scotland A. And you had Rodrigo Fernandez, their 10, saying after the game, like, I'd never seen rugby played at that pace. It was incredible and eye-opening. And they played Romania. And they beaten Romania. They did a good job there. But they'd had one game ever at that intensity. They then come into England, they forever get them for 20 minutes and they can't last. And you need to be getting these teams used to playing the next intensity up. And giving Zimbabwe a chance to play Georgia, Romania, Spain will be incredibly beneficial to them.
Yeah. Huge, huge. I'm really excited for it. As I say, partially because it's something new in the professional era of rugby. A lot because the Sable style of play is just really entertaining.
Yeah.
And I'm just really excited to get behind these players and see what they're capable of at the higher level. It will take a bit of time, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm really hopeful.
Okay, right. Imagine we're talking to a viewer now. Hi.
Hello, viewer.
Who's never watched Zimbabwe before.
Yeah.
Right? You missed out on Richard Simba from the late 80s and early 90s. Incredible player. The Black Diamond, as he was known. Questionable nickname when you consider what the Zimbabwe team was like at the time, but we moved past it. Okay, you're to pull out 3 players as the guys to watch, to keep an eye on ahead of the World Cup. Who are we going with?
Okay, I reckon Matthew Mandioma.
The hooker.
Yeah, he is phenomenal. Like, in terms of explosiveness in the way he plays the game.
Fast. Who would you compare from a kind of tier 1, people would know, Mandioma to?
Oh,
George's Way was the guy who comes up. I think he's quicker than that, and he's kind of more dynamic than that.
How about it's a bit of a stretch, but maybe like a George Turner in the way that he's quite athletic, he gets around the park really well, work rate is through the roof.
But he's bigger than George Turner.
He is, But in terms of technicalities, maybe. Does that seem fair?
I can go with that.
Okay. I would also go with Hilton Mudariki, captain. I just think he's a live wire. He's great in everything he does. It's what you want as a viewer out of a scrum half.
Yeah.
And he can kick the ball really well, and he's so quick.
He's the captain, scrum half, he's superb. We've mentioned him a lot. He's probably the player we've mentioned most in this video, and with good reason. He was excellent. He is also one of my first picks. My other guy I'd go for immediately, right, is the star boy, Edward Sagake.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Who just an absolute bullshit player. And dropping a bullshit player into a team like this, into a competition like this, is going to get you results. And I'm so excited to see what he can do against bigger teams and better teams, starting with the likes of Spain next year, but then graduating to one day maybe the Wallabies or whatever.
Yeah. That's a good 3 to pick out there.
I think so.
I'll stick with those.
Matthew Mandioma,
Yeah.
Hilton Mudariki,
Yeah.
Edward Sagake. Remember the names.
Yes. Go the Sables.
Go Sables. I want a jersey as well.
Yeah.
We need to get the jersey.
Give us a jersey.
I hope they sell them at the World Cup. If not, I want a jersey. A Zimbabwe jersey so badly.
I want a jersey.